Bringing your dog into the USA just got easier for some dog owners. For others, it's actually even more complicated. If you're confused by the new CDC rules, just like I was when I first found out about this, don't worry. In this video, we're going to talk about the latest updates for entering the US and how that's going to affect dog owners. And I'm going to walk you through all the steps you need to take if you plan on traveling with your dog to the USA. Hi, I'm Miruna and this is my Westie dog Sami. He's a dog traveler, and guess how many countries he's been in so far? 12 and counting. Today we'll talk about how traveling with your dog is changing and what that means for us as dog owners. So what happened? Recently, the US Center for Disease Control has changed the rules for dogs entering or returning into the United States. These new rules start on the 1st of August of 2024, so if you're planning a trip to the US with your dog, or if you live in the US and you're going on vacation abroad with your dog, here's what you need to know. Here are the requirements that all dogs coming into the United States have to meet. They have to be at least 6 months old, so unfortunately, no puppies allowed. They have to appear healthy upon arrival, and they need to have a microchip. And now on to the good news. If your dog is coming from a country that is rabies-free or is considered low risk for rabies, the only document you're going to need is a CDC dog import form. The only condition is that your dog hasn't been in any high-risk countries for rabies in the previous 6 months. That is amazing news because it means you don't have to spend a lot of money on visits to the vet and get expensive paperwork done, and your dog doesn't even need to have a rabies vaccine. Even though it's strongly advised for obvious reasons, rabies is fatal, and I also recommend that you vaccinate your dog, but it's not a requirement anymore. This document that they're asking for is free. You can find it online, fill it in yourself. It only takes a few minutes. And once you submit, you'll get an email with the receipt. And this receipt is the only thing you're going to need to have with you. You can print it or even just have a digital copy on your phone. Either one is accepted. So it just got easier to travel with your dog as long as you avoid traveling to countries that are considered high risk of rabies. And if you don't know what those countries are, I'm going to add a link in the description of this video so you can see. Now, you still need to check with the airline you're traveling with to see what documents they ask for. And also, you have to check with the Department of Agriculture of the state you're traveling to, because each state has its own rules. And some states might still ask for a health certificate. So it always depends on where you're traveling to. I'm also going to add a link below in the description so you can check the requirements for each state that you want to travel to. Now, what happens if you're traveling from a country considered a high risk for dog rabies, or if your dog has been in one of these countries in the past 6 months before bringing them to the US? Well, if your dog has been vaccinated in the US, then you're lucky and you're only going to need 2 documents: the CDC form we talked about earlier and a vaccination form or a health certificate that is USDA endorsed. Goes without saying, your dog must have a valid rabies vaccine. This applies to all dogs, even service dogs. How about for the dogs who were vaccinated in another country? Like in my case, Sami was vaccinated here in Europe. Well, if you're under this category and you traveled with your dog to a high-risk country in the past 6 months, this is where it gets complicated. The USA is really trying to keep the country free of dog rabies. And I guess throughout the years, there were a lot of fake documents going around. So they made the rules really strict this time. And before we get into all that, if you're finding this video useful so far, give it a like below, share it with others, and I don't know if you know this, but you can even buy us a super thanks by clicking on the thanks button below. Now, what were we talking about? Oh, if you're in this category where your dog was vaccinated outside the US and they've been in a high-risk country in the past 6 months, Then your dog also needs to have a foreign vaccination form, which has to be endorsed by an official government veterinarian in your country. Also, it gets worse. Your dog is gonna have to quarantine for 28 days. Or if you want to avoid quarantine, you can do that. You just need to do a rabies serology titer. So it's basically a blood test that checks for rabies. And you need to take the blood sample at least a month before entering the United States. And then you need to send it to a CDC-approved lab, and according to their website, the results for that can take weeks to be ready. So you have to really plan in advance, guys. And aside from that, you're also going to need to make a reservation at a CDC-registered animal care facility where your dog is going to be examined and probably revaccinated. And I think there are only like 7 of these CDC facilities in the whole USA based on what I've seen on their official website. So they made it really hard for these dogs to enter the country. My advice is start preparing at least 2 months in advance before your travel, because otherwise you're just gonna be stressed out and overwhelmed, and we want to avoid that. My goal when I make these videos is to help make it as easy as possible for you to deal with all of this. For this scenario, you even have a travel checklist on the CDC website that tells you what documents you need and how many days before your trip you need to start preparing each document. That's pretty cool, and I'm gonna put all these resources below in the description of this video so you can have all the info you need. Now, I take my dog with me on travels everywhere. If you watch my previous videos, you know that. So I'm always keeping myself updated with everything that's going on. So if you want to travel with your dog anytime soon and you want to learn more, I'm always happy to help. So just leave me a comment below and ask me anything. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to our channel for more videos like this, and good luck on your next trip with your dog. All he wants to do is go to sleep.